Hello, everybody. I'm Nishit from MCTSpaceLab. Thank you for joining us in our new project, MCTspaceTalks. MCTspaceTalks is our attempt at creating an open platform to discuss with, well, you, the fellow Musketeers, urban matters in our own city, basically Muscat. And our first series is titled Urban Saga, and it'll consist of 5 episodes. With every episode, we hope to discuss different aspects that influence the user's perceptions and usage of the public spaces available in our city. The debate on quality and usage of public spaces is endless. Today, we will look at a few statements that discuss qualities, and we will ask our fellow team members whether they agree with these statements or not and to give us their reasonings for doing so. So I request my team members to raise their hands if they agree with the statement, and if not, well, either way, they will have to explain why they think so. So my first statement for today is, a good public space feels like an extension of one's home. What do you guys think of the statement? Okay, Shireen agrees with the statement. So Shireen, can you explain why do you agree with the statement?
Yeah, I mean, I have my reasons for agreeing and disagreeing for both, but rather moving a bit more towards the agreeing statement. So when we take the metaphor of public space as a home, we have to understand the cultural connotation of what home actually means for different people in different contexts. So in the context of Oman and Muscat, a home is a very private space where you only invite the people that you know, and you invite the people whom you have, let's say, a friendship relationship base. But however, when we talk about a front yard or even a living room, this is rather a space which is considered as semi-private. So the moment we break down the metaphor of home into the different spaces that the home has to offer, I would then agree and say that public space definitely can be an extension of somebody's living room or even a front yard, where people do invite and welcome and even tolerate others, but not necessarily let you all the way into your, let's say, the kitchen space or the bedroom space. So in that aspect, I think I would have to agree in saying that it is an extension of one's living room.
Can I? It's funny because you have almost kind of the same base of the reason why I would disagree. It's again goes to the definition of what is home. Home to me is a personal space. But then when I wouldn't say public space is an extension of that area. To me, home is more of a comfort, private zone that does not extend beyond that boundary of whatever I call home, whether it's a villa, whatever that space is. But a public space to me is something else that I would go to experience something different from what I would experience at home. I don't know about the rest if they have different opinions.
I have, it depends. Like, for example, if your house is within a closed compound where you have another 16 villas, and then you have a public space there, yeah, and then if you have a housewarming party or something and you're inviting people, you open up your doors, and it's a closed compound, and then there is an open public space in front of you, so that becomes part of your home. But if you are in an area where it's not a closed compound and where you don't know your neighbors as much, they're not like, you don't feel like that space is yours because any unknown person can come there, so you don't feel it's home. So it also depends where you are.
I would like to point out something there, actually. What you're referring to is not a public space. It's a private space within one's home, within one's plot of land, that you choose at any point to open up or close. Whereas I think for the basis of our discussion, public spaces are the spaces that
Public.
are public, yes.
Equally public, yeah.
Exactly. They are not under any private body's control.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, just to clarify that a little bit.
Okay.
All right, I'll move on to our second statement, which is public spaces should be within 10-minute walking distance from one's home. Do you agree with this statement? Okay, everybody agrees with the statement. Maybe you could just shortly tell us why.
Yeah, I think the maximum should be at least 10 minutes. And this is, I think, you could see it also when you live far away from a car-based city, is that what do you do when you don't have a car to go to your next public space or whatever is close by? Walking is kind of the only option for children or people who don't have that privilege of driving or not usually with the authority to drive yet. So I think 10 minutes is doable for regardless of the age or yeah.
And I'd like to add to that, like, okay, maximum, I agree that maximum distance should be 10 meters. There should be some public spaces that are at a less shorter distance. And there should be some public activities or amenities like coffee shops, cafes, a little grocery shop of neighborhood. Something should be there to lead you to the public space. Otherwise, here in Oman, especially with the heat and everything, it's not easy to get to a place in 10 minutes by walking.
Okay, that actually leads me to my next statement. Urban furniture plays a major role in the usage of public space. What do you think about this statement? Okay, Shireen, what do you think?
Yeah, I would actually definitely agree to this statement quite a lot, because when we look at what urban furniture does to a space or why we have, it oftentimes gives the space a usability aspect, it brings the functionality aspect. And if you look at spaces where you would rather want to spend time, you would want to sit, you would want to let your kids play and sit with your friends while you're watching over your kids. And these things only happen when there is some amount of, let's say, flesh or some amount of objects as urban furnitures which are creating this space for you. It also brings us to the question of, let's say, if you look at street lighting, or if you look at small park lighting as these urban furniture, it also brings to the plate the aspect of feeling safe and wanting to be around people. So therefore, I definitely think that urban furnitures can play a role in making public spaces more vibrant and giving the public spaces rather a reason to, let's say, explore and be within.
All right, Romana, do you want to continue? Sorry, yeah, continue, Mariam.
Oh, sorry, Mariam could share her point. I also see you were hesitant, so I want to know, why were you hesitant?
One way, I think another way of looking at this, because especially with the culture that is here in Muscat or in Oman, is that people tend to take along their things that they want to. For example, like for example, a carpet that they can sit on in a park or something. So sometimes people don't really necessarily have to depend on the existing furniture, whatever it is that is provided. Especially, for example, if you look at beaches very often don't necessarily have all these components, and yet people are still going there and they're using the space, the public space. So even if I think even if furniture is not there, people tend to make use of whatever space is there, and they use it the way they want to, whether it's for gathering or for picnics or for football, or it doesn't. I think it is important, but it also doesn't stop people at least from my point of view.
I think I kind of agree with Shahrin and Mariam. At the beginning, when the question was asked, I thought, yes, yeah, of course, urban furniture plays a role. But then I was thinking a little bit in the case of Muscat, if I'm very specific to Muscat, I think because you do have a lot of outdoor spaces, not outdoor, I mean more like landscape, let's say like wadis, even if it's just the plain areas, beaches and all the stuff, people usually tend to take their stuff and go there. So I could imagine in Wadi Khot, there's like nothing. There's no urban furniture, but you will still find it busy sometimes on weekends. Also, recently in Khod, near the area where Sultan Qaboos University is, you see lots of cars parked, barbecuing in groups, larger groups. There was nothing there. They just found the space and they kind of occupied it. But if I go back to the question again, does urban furniture play a major role? I think it changes what happens to the space after it's done. So this goes back to what Shahrin was saying. When there's urban furniture, you see even like more activity in that area. People tend to want to use it, and other infrastructure starts following it, I think. And so it's like a both yes and no. I am in between. I'm not sure.
All right, with that, we'll move on to our next statement. Active public spaces in Muscat feels safer. Okay, Rumana, since you agree with the statement, why don't you start off and let's see what the opposing have to say.
Okay, when you're saying that active public spaces feel safer, I think of it as a public space where there are lots of activities going on, and these activities can be children's playground, where families are gathering and they're having some activity going on in there, or maybe there are some coffee shops lined up and they are active, so people are using the space, so there's a lot of movement around. So I will definitely feel safer in an area where there are people around and there are activities going around than going in a space which is quiet. And yeah, say that in terms of safer, I would feel safer in an active public space.
Okay.
I would attribute this, if I can just add, I would attribute this more towards the time of the day, because if it's not so active and it's still, for example, daylight, I would still feel comfortable sitting alone by the beach or walking alone by the beach. I don't necessarily find that an issue. But on the other hand, if it's, for example, at night or in the evening, even early evening, then I would feel more comfortable if at least one or two people are like around me, and then I feel safer. To me, it also has to do with time of when do I visit this space, whether it's with someone or I'm visiting it alone, and there are people that are already who are already occupying the space. So I think, for me at least, a time factor is actually important. And if I can just add one more thing, I think also your status also matters. If you are a parent, at least this is what I notice with most people, is that when a space is highly active, too crowded, and it's like too many people in there, some people would feel uncomfortable taking their kids there because it's too crowded, and it becomes a safety thing for their child, not for themselves. So I think this can also play a role. That's why maybe sometimes people might choose a different timing to take their kids to play somewhere, because it's less crowded around that time. So I think there's more than one factor that plays here.
I agree with Mariam. Kind of. It's not just time, it's also a little bit like safer, as in, what is the danger? Is the danger going to be from another person, or is the danger going to be, I might find a scorpion? I feel in the area where I live, there's more nature to be afraid of than people. So I wouldn't say even in the middle of the night, if it's like where I live, it's safe, but I wouldn't feel unsafe in Muscat in comparison to other cities.
It's interesting because recently Muscat has been voted 5th safe city. I'll check that up. Let me not put, but yes, this is a recent thing that came up. It's been on the Observer lately. So moving on to our next statement.
Shahrin had something to say?
Shahrin, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Maybe I was a bit too late. No, I just wanted to add one more point when we talk about activeness of a space itself. I think people, yes, but what Romana also mentioned in the very first question, that you need some activities leading you to a certain public space. So for me, an active public space where I would feel comfortable to go in would be a space which has a lot to offer in terms of, I don't know, a shawarma shop, a karak place, or some, I mean, even watching football, you know, some kind of space which is not just in the middle of nowhere, but rather is accompanied by 2 or 3 other functions to bring, let's say, a little bit life, or to bring a little bit functionality to the space. So for me, that in my head would be an active public space, and in Muscat, that's where I think I would also feel safe to go to.
Okay, I'll just correct my statement. Oman has been ranked the 5th safest country in the world, and Muscat has been ranked 27th safest city in the world. Just to correct that. Moving on to our next statement. Public spaces in Muscat feels inclusive to all social groups. What do you think of the statement? Should I say everybody disagrees?
Maybe I can just start off saying one statement. I mean, I don't agree or disagree to the statement, but I think there is a point of perception towards this. So whenever we go to public spaces, be it the neighborhood spaces or the large parks are considered as public spaces, we don't have any sign anywhere saying that you shouldn't, I mean, it's not allowed for certain groups, certain, I don't know, pets, or they're not even fenced off and not closed off. So those closed off spaces which let's say, some groups out is not really visible in Muscat. So in Muscat, ideally, you can visit all the neighborhood public spaces, the larger public spaces in the city, but it comes to the question of choice. So would you, what kind of public spaces would you choose to go? So for the statement, I would say that it tends to be inclusive to all groups, but would different social groups use the space equally is something that is that I would leave to the rest of the members of the team to discuss. Probably the question of perception.
I
That's
think the question,
interesting. Yes,
yeah,
Romana.
the statement says whether it feels inclusive, you know. So I agree with Shahrin completely. Like, there is nowhere here in Oman it says kids are not allowed, or old age people are not allowed, or adults are not allowed. It doesn't say that. But then what happens is that people around, they make, it's not that they make, it just happens that the space becomes special for certain group of people, you know. And then this changes with time. There are lots of examples here in Oman where one space was at time used by kids and families, and today it's used by young adult boys who play football in that area. You know, the use of the space also changes, and there are lots of other factors that leads to that. So it is inclusive, but then it's it just happens that it becomes special for a certain group of people.
Yeah, I would just add one more thing about inclusive. It's what Romana said is the social norms that are defined by the people, and what also Shahrin mentioned. But there's also like another thing, not just gender or groups, but there's also the people with the disabilities. I'm not so sure that they are kind of considered in the planning of public spaces. I had a foot injury and I broke my foot, and I think I was in Muscat for 1 week, and that 1 week was quite tough because nothing was really built for somebody who could still walk with sticks, as in I can't imagine if you were in a seat, for example.
So we're running a little short of time, so I'm just going to run the last statement quickly, and if you could just give me your quick opinions. Statement is, it is the sole duty of the municipality to design, build, and maintain the public spaces in Muscat. Okay, we think, yeah. All right, Mariam, if you could start.
It's a yes and no for me. Yes, because all neighborhoods are already being pre-planned and then distributing, and the plots are distributed and people build their own homes, and then you would expect that there is someone who is sitting at the top who has already considered, like, for example, these are rows of houses, and then somewhere in the middle between those houses, I'll place a park, for example. So this is the side that says yes. But then there is also, when it comes to maintenance and other things, I mean, yes, okay, then maybe they are planned spaces and they are you know, they are there for you, already done and prepared for you. But I think in order to have this sense of attachment to your neighborhood, to that space that is there, I think it does require a contribution from the neighborhood so that they feel like this is mine. This is, you know, like, this is my neighborhood. I need to take care of it. I need to do this and
Ownership,
that. So I
to
think,
claim ownership.
yeah, yes. So that's it from my side.
Ru'a, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I kind of, yeah, I agree with Mariam. I don't think it's just the responsibility of Muscat Space, I was gonna say Muscat SpaceLab, because we're the municipality. No, I'm joking.
We apologize for that mistake.
It's fine. I don't think it's the responsibility of Muscat municipality, but they also have a role that they should kind of lay out some rules and regulations and enable communities to take ownership of their space. Yes, sure, they cannot do everything, but they also need to let people do some things. And I think that combination is kind of missing. And you see it as an issue as Muscat is just growing like crazy. And you have a neighborhood growing in every corner of the city. And I can't imagine that one municipality could manage all of this in terms of public spaces and infrastructure. It's kind of a huge load to put in just one entity. So maybe
Ravana,
like,
as a closing statement, would you like to add something to that? I'm sorry to cut you off, Rob, but we're running a little short right now.
No, I just agree with both of them.
You disagree?
I said I agree with both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree with the statement. And yeah, the government or the authorities, they can take the responsibility of building it in terms of there should be one style of building, like the materials and everything that is being used. But then I think the communities should be taking role in designing the space and actually taking the decision of what that space should be utilized for, because at the end they're the users of the space, not me. I can design a chair for a space, but then maybe the person who's living there, he doesn't want a chair, he wants a tree, or he wants to have a swing for his child, you know. So, and also, like, I think if I put in some effort in terms of money or in terms of actually building something, I will take care of it because I have put some effort to make that thing happen. So I think it's both ways. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, ladies. This is actually quite interesting. So I think it also sets up the base for our next episodes. Thank you, everyone who's stayed with us for this long, and we'll see you soon in our next episode. Thank you. Good night.